Good morning, it's Joyce here from Sharing God's Love. And this morning, I'd like to say to you, if you enjoy my videos, why not subscribe? Then you can be notified every time one of my videos is available. Well, today I want to share with you some verses from John 14. I've spoken on this subject before, but I don't think it hurts to speak about it again. And the subject is, how do we know what God is like? Well, in John 14, Jesus is talking to his disciples. And Thomas wants to know how he can know the way. And Jesus answers, I am the way and the truth and the life. No one comes to the Father except through me. If you really know me, you will know my Father as well. From now on, you do know him and have seen him. And Philip says to him, Lord, show us the Father, and that will be enough for us. And Jesus says, don't you know me, Philip? Even after I have been among you for such a long time, anyone who has seen me has seen the Father. How can you say, show us the Father? Don't you believe that I am in the Father and the Father is in me? The words I say to you, I do not speak on my own authority. Rather, it is the Father living in me who is doing his work. So how do we know what God is like? Well, we'll look at Jesus to know what God is like. And what kind of things did Jesus do? Well, he was kind and he healed people. He wasn't judgmental. He forgave the woman who was caught in adultery. And the only time he ever spoke any scathing words was to the Pharisees, because as far as he was concerned, they were a bad example. They were telling people what to do with their lives, but they weren't doing that themselves. They were actually weighing people down. And he spoke some very scathing words to the Pharisees. He called them whitewashed tombs. I want to think about that for a minute. A tomb is a place where a dead body is. So he was saying that they were actually dead. And the reason that they were dead was because they didn't know God personally. All they knew was about following all the rules, all the regulations as best as they could. And they were very proud of the way that they followed all the rules and regulations, but they had no compassion whatsoever towards people. And that's why Jesus was so scathing of the Pharisees. But when you find him talking to other people, people like the woman who caught in sin, he was nothing but kind to her. And he just said, go and sin no more. He didn't say, oh, you've been a really wicked person and God's going to judge you and you're going to go to hell. No, he never said anything like that. So if we want to really know what God is like, we don't look at the laws. We don't look at the old covenant, because that is not God's character. That's not his true nature. His true nature is to be loving, kind, and compassionate, just like Jesus was. So if we really want to know what God is like, and we can't know what he looks like because he's a spirit, but we can know what his nature is by looking at him being manifest in Jesus. Jesus was the total embodiment of everything that God wants to say to us human beings. He wants us to know what he's like. So he sent Jesus to show us what he's like. And in those 3 short years that Jesus was alive, there is so much that we can know by looking at how he was, to see the true nature of God. And friends, if you don't already know Jesus, I'd like to invite you now to become his follower. And you may be asking, well, how do I do that? Well, Romans tells us that if you believe in your heart that Jesus was raised from the dead, and if you confess him as your Lord, then you will be saved. And that's all there is to it. There's no fancy things you have to do. You just have to believe on him and follow him as your Lord. Now, there's a big difference between believing in Jesus and making him your Lord. So I'd like to ask you today, is Jesus Lord of your life? Thank you for listening.